Hey traders, checking in the stock market today. Fairly flat day out there. Some individual names had some volatility for trading. The energy sector certainly standing out. We'll look at some individual names there as well. For the most part, bears keeping short-term control. The burden remains on bulls. Let's look at some charts. So bulls unable to do much as far as the broader market is concerned. We had an inverse head and shoulders on the hourly on the futures chart heading into the open, and it did confirm with a bull break. But very shortly after that bull break, the red flag started firing. Red flags being the bulls need to maintain a 5-minute uptrend to keep that move going. And we very quickly lost it. After the size of this pullback to set the 5-minute high or low, we were looking for a lower high to be the result of that next bounce to top fish off the high of the day for aggressive bears. And then from there, just a whole bunch of sideways. So in the end, bulls not proving anything and really just cooling off some RSI levels. Everything has cooled off except for the 4-hour. So the 4-hour is still extended. We can see the S&P 500 here is testing the lows, and that 4-hour RSI is still down around 20. So again, astounding lack of dip buying at this point. And if we see a gap down open tomorrow, I'm going to be keeping an eye out for bounces. If we see a higher open, we'll keep an eye out for resistances, but a lot of names, most names, just setting hourly lower highs today and keeping in control of the bears. There was definitely growth or some strength in some pockets, which we will look at, but NASDAQ, same deal. Hourly inverse head and shoulders confirmed, straight into a loss of the 5-minute uptrend. We then just tightened up sideways for most of the day, and we are looking at the lows. 4-hour RSI cooled off from 16 up to 23, but again, still weak. Possible to be a 4-hour bear flag. I would not expect much follow through if it were a 4-hour bear flag. But again, the lack of dip buying is notable. SMH also unable to do a whole lot. Bounce was a bit more impressive. You can see on the morning, we did see a move up to the high of yesterday, and bears top fishing off that resistance were rewarded. That resistance 231.25, we rejected by 17 cents. And then from that point, bears controlled the rest of the day. So we have to see an hourly trend change confirmed to bulls. We have a base of support with a double bottom down around 226. We got a double top just over 231. Let's use some real lines. And so the bulls must hold 226.12 for the hourly high or low into a confirmed trend change. Then the daily bounce would be underway. We would zoom out and we would scout a daily lower high to be the result of the next bounce, but still just focused on the hourly until bulls can confirm hourly uptrends for us to be zoomed out and scouting those daily lower highs. Tesla relative strength stood out yesterday, stood out again today. Took a little bit of time on the morning for that to be the case because we did double top. We double topped at the high of yesterday resistance by a couple dollars and dropped pretty notably, and then the V-shaped recovery. So there was a little bit of a juke as far as, okay, bulls are strong, double top rejection, and then benefiting. And if you look at Tesla divided by QQQ, you can see that all day, aside from that drop, all day we were stronger. And that's notable as well because we are still in an uptrend as far as relative strength for Tesla divided by QQQ. And we got this tightening 2-day range that we were looking for, whether you're on the 2-day or the daily. I can find the daily is clear enough for me. Higher low is now set, and we're watching for anything under 944 to be a daily lower high. And we know that volume and volatility will increase when this tightening range breaks. Ideal scenario for me would be another green day or two, another little pullback, and then we get the break. Again, whenever there's a tightening range, if I do not already have a position, I want it to get as tight as possible. We've got that split coming up later in the week. We'll see how the price responds to that. I believe Amazon had a bearish reaction. It did bearish reaction to its split. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Financial sector, still weak. Bulls didn't do anything. The bounce today, just an hourly lower high. Failing to break the high of yesterday by 6 pennies. Broke the low of yesterday. Closed at the low of today. Gap to fill is 33.93 to be keeping an eye on. Hourly downtrend remains intact. So just a bounce into an hourly lower high, into an hourly lower low. When the bulls change the hourly trend, we'll be scouting a daily lower high. Maybe not that significant, but a daily lower high to be the result of that bounce. But bears still in short-term control. Healthcare sector, lead bear today. So significant further downside, taking out support from the last couple of weeks. Weekly support is coming into play now. Man, we're still a ways above it. 125.23. But bears are hoping that that's a monthly lower high. When's the last time the healthcare sector has confirmed a monthly downtrend with a lower high and lower low? And your answer is 2008. So all these 2008 comparisons, a monthly confirmed downtrend on the healthcare sector would be a big win for the bears. And it's not too far away. 8% drop maybe is needed. 8 to 9%. Just something to keep an eye on. Again, notable shift with bears taking control the last 2 days. IWM, one of the stronger names today, but if the broader market's not going to bounce, can't keep it up. And you'll see that a number of times. You'll see a name stand out with some relative strength, but if the broader market stays weak, it only lasts a certain amount of time because bulls then take profit and bears jump on it to be a laggard. So we broke the high of yesterday, but gave it all back by the end of the day. So I'm viewing this as a low, hourly lower high, held the low, but still an hourly downtrend unless we break 192.93. Again, the most notable takeaway for me the last 2 days is just dip buying non-existent. Checking in on some growth names. So ARKK, still weak. Lower high every single day, 6 days in a row now. PLTR, same deal, close at the low. Snow, much better bounce. They got earnings tomorrow, but big upper wick. CRWD, a much better bounce. Don't know if they had news or what. We'll keep an eye out for a daily lower high, anything under 205.73. Biotech sector bulls did stand out today as well. And this was a little bit of a tricky one. Similar to Tesla. So we started with relative strength in the first 3 minutes of trading, and then we dropped down to the lows. And in my opinion, a lot of that had to do with healthcare. We don't trade tick for tick correlated between biotech and healthcare, but there is definitely an impact. And this is what healthcare did in the first 20 minutes of trading. And so XBI was negatively impacted by that. They bottomed around the same time, and then the bulls were able to take back over. We had a 15-minute equilibrium. So this was a good one where tightening range, if I'm going to take a trade midday, I want to see a nice clear pattern that has been developing all morning. And so in this instance, we had a double top, quick little bull flag, and then very convincing follow through. And so that was a solid bounce for the biotech sector, and it is relatively stronger than most sectors today. But anything under 95.18 will just be a daily lower high, so I'm keeping an eye on the hourly uptrend, which is now intact. And if we lose the hourly uptrend, it's a bad drawing, but you get the idea. If we lose the hourly uptrend, then our daily lower high will be set. So aggressive bears, swing trading bears, are watching for a daily lower high to form on XBI, keeping in mind that the broader market has not bounced at all. And I would be more comfortable as a bear if the broader market had a day or two of bounce and they set a lower high as well, SPY and QQQ, to help XBI find that lower high. So energy names standing out. Energy, big breakout today. Quick little bull flag from yesterday. And we've been watching the oil falling wedge. That's following through nicely. So oil with the daily higher low and higher high. Need to break 94.17. It's a double top at the moment. Need to break that level for continuation. Inventory report tomorrow is going to be key. Lots of space for a 4-hour higher low to form next time we consolidate. So bulls just want to maintain the 4-hour uptrend from here, because the last thing you want to do is see that bull break and then start to pull back into daily consolidation. You want that bull break and follow through. So it's a good start. Monthly time frame, still trying to shape up. EMA 12 support. We know the energy sector did it long ago. Individual names today. That's pretty much all I was doing today, was trading OXY, which has some Buffett news and large Buffett holdings that are a catalyst here. So all-time highs back in the picture, but there is a notable resistance zone, 76 to 77s, with a triple top at that all-time high. But the volatility today was beautiful. Absolute full-on bull control. And even these little pullbacks, not much for the bears, but nice little fast 2% drop, 1.5% drop. So I was playing both directions, but I probably made more bearish than bullish because I was trading CVX on the morning. And then once OXY got real extended and the bull break started to lack some follow through, it looked to me like the bulls were tiring. I was watching for 15-minute consolidation. We had a 15-minute stair step. That broke bear at 74 and dropped down 1%. But overall, it's still very healthy. It's an hourly bull flag. And again, that all-time high is in play. So generally when I'm looking at a sector, I haven't been paying attention to the energy sector much this year, but oil falling wedge is getting me paying attention now. And so I'm just watching OXY and CVX. And generally, I'll just take a couple names in a sector to be paying attention to. And for CVX, as I pointed out, I think yesterday, like that tightening daily range, it broke bull. And now 163.18. Strong close, hourly bull flag attempt into the end of the day. And if we can take out 163.18 tomorrow, it'll be a convincing sideways range, breaking bullish into continuation. But energy names had a really good day out there today. And that is definitely where some money was flowing into. Certainly not seeing money flowing into many sectors, but it was into energy. Keep an eye on some of these volatile names. So when you look at this for BBBY, you say that's a pump and dump. And I agree. If you're going to pump that hard and give all that back, it's a pump and dump. But you will generally find that on this fade from the dump, the volume declines. You reach a point where the volume doesn't decline anymore and you get a volume spike. Why do you get a volume spike? Because you get a bit of a bounce. And you see the scales, again, supply outweighing demand on this entire pullback. And as the volume is dropping off, the supply and demand is doing this. The scales are balancing out. And then we look for them to flip a little bit. Again, even if it's just for a quick little daily lower high, when you're seeing this amount of volatility in both directions, that quick, weak lower high, I mean, if you bounce on the daily to here, that's a very weak bear flag. But the percentage size of that bounce is very worthwhile. And again, as a trader, I'm not trying to nail the bottom, but if I recognize the shift is on, that's 35% there. And if I get a third of that move, that's a double-digit percentage gain. So I'm starting to pay attention to these names. And if we go back just as an example, BKKT was a pump and dump that we played back in the Reddit euphoria days. And you look at this and say, well, once we topped out, bears had absolute control. And I wouldn't argue with you there, but that's a 50% bounce. That's over a 50% bounce. So my point is, there is still opportunity. Again, it's not the kind of thing you're scaling into and just holding a swing position and praying that the bounce gets going. You've got to see that momentum shift. But look at the volume just completely disappear and be flat. And then you get that volume spike on that 50% bounce day. So I'm starting to pay attention to names like Fubo, which started today with some strength, but unable to do much with it. I'm not going to trade Fubo. I'm just watching it for similarities because it's the same setup. So BBBY, still all bears, but we are watching for the scales to tilt for a day and for bulls to go 20% plus that day. As far as levels to be keeping an eye on, we've only got really 845 as a support nearby and then just psychological levels. We haven't hit hourly oversold during regular trading hours, keeping an eye on that as well. And the other name I'm watching is MNMD, same deal. Pullback gap did not fill by a couple tenths of a penny. The gap fill is 749 and we hit 7515 today. But a little bit of some lower wicks. Again, look at the volume just completely disappearing. There will be a volume spike coming. And broke the low of yesterday without much follow through. Daily EMA 12 trying to hold. Couple lower wicks. So I'm watching for this 30-minute falling wedge to try and shape up. Probably tighten it up a bit at this point, but something along these lines, quick drawing. So watching something like that. If you want to just do the regular trading hours, we would have broken just by time, not by price. So we'll stick to extended hours as well. Anyways, this is what I'm keeping an eye on to see if bears start to exhaust themselves, because again, you reach a point where everybody that was going to sell from a long position has done so. Everybody that was going to short the spike has done so. And the only thing that is left is shorts covering and bulls buying the dip for a daily high or low. So we're watching for that point to present itself over the next day or two. So MNMD definitely has my interest along with those other names. And also in the psychedelic space, CMPS has stood out the last 2 days for some relative strength. We are up over 10%, over 15% from the low of yesterday. There's been some buying from ARKG in CMPS and ATAI. And bulls would love to hold this weekly EMA 12. Before we even started weekly consolidation, I highlighted a pullback to hold weekly EMA 12 to set a weekly high or low would be a great sign for the bulls. Bigger picture on this trend, and bulls are trying to shape that up. So still keeping an eye on the sector after the excitement of last week that was certainly short-lived. As far as cannabis, TLRY, daily rising wedge bear break played out. And it was just the bull breaks lacking follow through. Like that. Falling through. CGC, big drop on the daily. Inside bar today. The dollar, double top at 109.29, but just looking for a 4-hour high or low. Actually, at this point, I'm on the 12-hour. We're looking for a 12-hour high or low. I would need to see another leg down under 108 for it to be a convincing enough rejection to say, hey, maybe that double top remains. But for now, if this 12-hour forms a bull flag, it's a cup and handle. And we're watching retracement size, and we can see it's still very easily a potential bull flag at this point. So dollar's a potential cup and handle to be keeping an eye on. And if we, again, we would need another clear leg down for that cup and handle to be off the table. We would need a drop down to 107 almost. But an initial rejection. And so on that initial rejection, we have the metals bouncing. So gold today, change the 4-hour trend bullish, close over EMA 12 for the first time in a week. Zoom out, daily bounce underway, but we know we're just looking for a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce because there's a lot of space for it to form. And if we're going to have any hope for gold to set up a weekly trend change, we got to see that dollar double top and reject. So this looks good. Like, oh, maybe we're setting that weekly high or low, but we need multiple days of bounce follow through. And in my opinion, that's not happening without multiple days of dollar rejection. Silver, same thing, 4-hour trend change, daily bounce underway, just looking for the lower high. So bulls need to maintain a 4-hour uptrend for a couple days here if we're going to have any hope that a weekly high or low is forming. Miners had a good day today. Quick shift, relative strength stood out pre-market. And benefiting from that metals bounce, broader market did not help. This was one where all the gains were in the first 45 minutes, and they were big gains, but then just a slow fade from there. And EM still not getting much bear follow through on the breaks, but still a clear daily downtrend. So miners are positioned well if the metals and the broader market can get some bounce going. The metals already got the bounce going. The broader market has not. But again, we're just looking for daily lower highs on those miners as well. CCJ, relative strength yesterday, similar to Tesla, benefiting in a big way from that today. So big bull move. Just looking for the daily lower high compared to 2607. Bulls would love if this is our weekly high or low shaping up. 1 day, 2 days of bounce is not enough for us to say that. We need a big enough bounce here on the daily for a daily trend change to shape up. But considering the broader market has not even started to bounce, definitely a solid, almost a 10%, 9% bounce from the low of yesterday. So CCJ is going to keep our attention with uranium as long as those weekly charts keep tightening up. And there's oil. What natural gas do? Natural gas dumped a bit from $10 psychological resistance. Quick 10% pullback almost, 9% pullback. So got to be cautious of the rising wedgie type action when you break resistance and don't follow through. That's a bad trend line. Key support here is 892. If you lose 892, we zoom out and watch for weekly consolidation again. And that would be a bull break on the weekly with a lack of follow through straight into weekly consolidation. So this is definitely interesting some bears a bit. Let's see if we form a 4-hour lower high next bounce. Bears would need to confirm a 4-hour downtrend for the continued momentum shift. So you'll note as a trader, I'm looking at that energy or the uranium setup, and I'm probably not going to trade after my failed CCJ short. I'm probably not going to trade it until it breaks, but I'm just patiently waiting. And that oil, how long was I watching that oil falling wedge before benefiting from it? At least a week, just patiently waiting. So a lot of trading is scouting setups that are developing, watching them continue to develop, and then watching for the timing of when those, usually it's tightening ranges, break. And that's why I am shifting around my focus. So I'm definitely going to be focused on energy for a while, as long as that relative strength remains. All right. Do good things. Hope you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Pokeweed is ready for birds to eat all their seeds. This is a big lamb's quarter, which is edible. I didn't know they got that big. That's 12 feet tall. Starting to cut back some of the dead stuff. This is the asparagus dying off. Getting a ton of ground cherries, and none of which were planted. Second round of zinnias. Planted a bunch of salad or lettuce and collards and kale and a wave of greens for the fall outside. And then I'll do another round in the greenhouse late fall through the winter. So this is where the potatoes were, and these bitter melons have taken over with really good timing for both of them. So this is a bitter melon, an Asian melon with purported medicinal benefits, good for people with diabetes. Science isn't really proving that at this point, but I'm going to trust the civilization that's been using it for hundreds or thousands of years. So this is how you prepare it. You can saute it in butter in the pan, and it's definitely a bit bitter. So you can saute it or soak it in salt, cold salt water. Also remove some of the bitterness, and the bitter part is the inner rind. And so you open it up and scoop out the seeds, and I'm going to pickle these ones, and then I'm going to fry up this one and see how it goes.